Get out or we'll make you. That's what the cops told him. By nightfall, one was in custody, and the other was begging for immunity. Snow fell like silence over Riverbrook, slow, quiet, heavy, the kind that made the world feel paused, frozen in time. But the diner lights stayed on, flickering through the fogged windows like a promise. Inside, forks clinked, boots stomped, laughter lingered over weak coffee. The kind of place where people knew your name, or acted like they did. Eli Morgan walked the icy sidewalk with the kind of steadiness that didn't belong to a man with nowhere to go. His boots cracked from years of wear, coat patched in 3 places, dog tags tucked just under his collarbone. But his eyes were alert, like a man still scanning rooftops for snipers. It was Friday. Veterans Assistance hit his account yesterday, just enough to cover one hot meal, maybe the last for a week. He paused at the front door of Red Rail Diner, brushed snow from his shoulders, and straightened his back. Instinct more than pride. 3 days sleeping under a train platform hadn't dulled the soldier in him. He pushed open the door. Warmth rushed to greet him. So did silence. Conversation halted. Chairs squeaked. A mother pulled her child closer. A man palmed his wallet. None of it surprised Eli. It never did. He picked the stool with a view of both exits, sat down, and waited. Rachel Owens spotted him immediately. She'd been working at Red Rail for 2 years, long enough to know how the regulars behaved when someone unfamiliar came in. She also knew what quiet dignity looked like, and the man on that stool radiated it. Not just survival, but stillness, control. Rachel grabbed a menu and approached, trying not to notice the eyes tracking her across the room. "Coffee?" she asked softly. "Black. Please." His voice was calm, but not fragile. "And whatever's the special today." "Meatloaf, mashed potatoes, green beans," she replied. "Sounds like a feast," he smiled. Small, genuine. "Thank you." Rachel nodded and turned. Behind her, she felt the chill before the words even came. "Dumpster diving must be rough these days." Officer Kyle Dugan called out from his usual booth, not even trying to lower his voice. His partner, Officer Bradley Knox, snickered, swirling his coffee with deliberate laziness. They came in every Friday. Everyone pretended not to notice their jokes, but Rachel heard every word. So did Eli. She delivered his plate with steady hands and turned to the cops. "Can I get you gentlemen anything else?" Knox leaned back and stretched. "Yeah. Keep an eye on the silverware. And the bathroom. They like to shoot up when they get warm." Eli didn't flinch. Didn't look back. Just lifted his fork like he hadn't heard. But his grip on the utensil was white-knuckled. Rachel walked away quickly, cheeks burning. In the corner of the diner, an older man muttered, "Don't get involved, girl. Those two, they make people vanish." She didn't answer, but her steps slowed. In her apron pocket, her phone vibrated. An old voicemail from her younger brother at the academy. "Be careful, Ratch. You stand up for the wrong person these days, and you're out." Back at the counter, Eli shifted his coat slightly. A faded tattoo flashed under his collar. Delta Force. Rachel's breath caught for half a second. Her father had served in Kandahar. She recognized that symbol. Her hands shook as she refilled his coffee. At the cops' table, Kyle stood up and nodded at Knox. "Time for our civic duty." Rachel stepped between them and Eli, placing a fresh napkin near his plate. On it, a number scribbled in pen. "If anything happens," she whispered, "call that." Eli didn't respond, but he glanced at the napkin, then at her. For a split second, something softened in his eyes. Kyle passed behind her and stopped, voice low. You should be careful, Rachel. That kind of kindness gets noticed. She didn't look at him, just walked away. In the reflection of the diner window, she saw Knox stand, hand near his holster. Her gut twisted. Eli took one last bite of his meatloaf, then set down his fork with military precision. The storm hadn't hit Riverbrook yet, but inside the diner, it had already started. Officer Kyle Dugan adjusted his belt with performative boredom, then stepped forward, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Sir," he barked, "I need you to stand up." Eli didn't move. "Is there a problem, officer?" Kyle leaned closer, voice dropping. "Let's not do this the hard way." Rachel, watching from the counter, stiffened. Her hand instinctively went to her apron pocket where her phone waited, screen already recording. "I paid for my meal," Eli said quietly, "and I haven't broken any laws." "Refusing to comply," Knox said from behind him, stepping in to box Eli in. "That's one. Disturbing the peace, that's two. Resisting, let's make it three." The diner went still. Phones began to appear, shakily held, discreetly aimed. No one said a word. Kyle reached under the counter and grabbed a paper packet. Salt, sugar, didn't matter. Then theatrically tossed it near Eli's foot. "Is this yours?" he shouted. "What's this? Contraband." Knox jumped on the act. "Sir, step away from the table, now." "You're under investigation for suspicious materials." Eli stared at the packet, then up at them. "Is this your game?" Kyle's voice turned ice cold. "It's the law." Rachel's voice cracked through the tension. "He's done nothing wrong." "Stay out of this, Owens," Knox snapped. "You want to keep that job, don't interfere." Rachel stepped back, her face flushed, but her phone still recording from behind the napkin holder. Kyle grabbed Eli's shoulder, hard. "Get up, or we make you." Eli stood, but not because they forced him to. He did it on his own terms, calm and controlled. "There's a reason you two wear badges," he said, eyes steady. "To protect, not to provoke." Knox laughed harshly. "Save the speech, soldier boy." As they dragged him out, Eli didn't struggle. But as he passed Rachel, he leaned in just enough for her to hear, "Tell General Whitaker. Morgan's in trouble." She blinked. "Who?" "You'll find the number," he murmured, "if you're brave enough." They shoved him through the door, out into the snow, slamming him against the patrol car with enough force to draw a grunt of pain. One of them fished through his coat. Dog tags clattered to the pavement. Kyle stepped on them. "Peeps," he sneered. "Guess you're not such a hero after all." Rachel, trembling, rushed outside once they drove away. She scoured the snow until her fingers touched cold metal. She turned them over. Elijah J. Morgan, SSGT, U.S. Army, Kandahar. Inside, she ducked into the employee bathroom, bolted the door, and pulled out her phone. The number, scribbled on the back of a receipt, tucked under the napkin, sat in her shaking hand. "You're not really going to do this," she whispered to herself. "This is insane." She stared at the screen, then hit call. 3 rings. "Department of Defense," a voice answered. "Who may I connect you with?" Rachel's voice cracked. I need General Harold Whitaker. It's urgent, about Sergeant Elijah Morgan." A pause, then a different voice. "This is Colonel Reynolds, General Whitaker's aide." "What's going on?" She explained. The diner, the arrest, the dog tags, the fear. Another pause. "Please hold." Seconds stretched. Rachel pressed herself against the cold tile wall, heart pounding. Then, "This is General Whitaker." His voice was deep, clear, and instantly commanding. Rachel couldn't breathe. "You said Sergeant Morgan is in trouble?" he asked. She nodded, then realized he couldn't see her. "Yes. The police here, They dragged him out, accused him of things he didn't do. He told me to call you." A silence followed, the kind that feels like gravity. "Miss Owens," Whitaker said finally, "you did exactly the right thing. I want that footage. My aide will send you a secure line. Then, I want you to go home. Do not speak to anyone. Am I clear?" "Yes, sir. I'm activating a response team immediately. Sergeant Morgan isn't just a soldier. He's the reason I'm still breathing." Rachel stood in stunned silence as the line disconnected. She looked at her reflection in the mirror, wide-eyed, flushed, afraid. Then she wiped her face, squared her shoulders, and stepped out of the bathroom. A storm was coming, and it was headed straight for Riverbrook. At the Riverbrook police station, Eli sat alone in the holding cell. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, cold and unkind. His ribs ached from the way they'd slammed him into the cruiser. The bench beneath him was metal, unforgiving, but his breathing stayed calm, controlled. Meditation wasn't about peace. It was about control, about survival. Across the corridor, Officer Knox leaned against the wall, arms crossed, smirking. "Thought you could just walk into our town like you owned something?" Eli didn't answer. He'd seen men like Knox before, in every war, on every front. Men who needed the illusion of control to feel relevant. "Funny thing," Knox continued, "you people always talk about honor, but out here, you're just another bum with a pity check." Eli kept his eyes closed. That's when the door banged open. Two people entered. Sharp suits, crisp steps, zero hesitation. One man, one woman. Badges flashed before anyone could speak. "Special Agent Daniels, DOD Internal Affairs," the man said. "This is Agent Morales. We're here for Sergeant Elijah Morgan." Knox straightened. "Excuse me? You can't just—" Daniels didn't flinch. "Where is he?" "He's in holding," Knox snapped. "Under investigation for being arrested without cause," Morales cut in. "For being dragged from a diner by officers with multiple complaints on record and zero probable cause?" Knox shifted. "This isn't a federal matter." "It is now," Daniels replied. "Sergeant Morgan is a decorated veteran, Silver Star, 2 Purple Hearts, and a direct link to General Harold Whitaker." That name hit like a hammer. Knox didn't speak again. Moments later, the agents opened Eli's cell. "Mr. Morgan," Morales said, voice respectful. "You're free to go." Eli stood slowly, his expression unreadable. "That was fast." "General Whitaker doesn't make people wait," Daniels said. They walked him past the booking desk, where a heated argument between the sheriff and Kyle had just ended in a red-faced silence. Kyle froze as Eli passed. He opened his mouth, then closed it. "Officers Knox and Dugan," Daniels added coldly, "will be placed on administrative leave pending a full federal review." The sheriff nodded too quickly. "Will cooperate fully. This incident does not reflect the values of this department." Eli paused, just briefly, then turned his head enough to speak, not to them, but to the air around them. "Power doesn't make a man dangerous. Fear does." Outside, the snow had lightened. A black SUV waited at the curb, unmarked but unmistakably federal. Eli declined the ride. "I prefer to walk." He had barely taken 3 steps when a familiar voice called from across the street. Rachel rushed toward him, her coat too thin, her breath visible in the cold. "You're okay," she said, hands trembling as she handed him something. His dog tags, now cleaned, chain repaired. "I kept them safe." Eli took them gently. The metal was cold, but it felt like home. "You made the call," he said. Rachel nodded. "Didn't think it would work. I mean, The Pentagon? It always works, Eli replied. Truth scares cowards. They stood in silence, the snow falling softer now. Rachel hesitated. They're not done, are they? No, Eli said. They're just getting started. Back in Washington, General Whitaker stood in his office, watching snow fall beyond the window. His aide handed him a folder. Photos, reports, a summary of the Riverbrook incident. He didn't need to read it. He already knew what came next. He picked up a secure phone and dialed. Ava, he said. It's Uncle Harry. I need a favor. A big one. On the other end, Ava Washington, civil rights attorney, former prosecutor, and the last person anyone wanted to face in court, sat straighter. Tell me where to go, she said. Whitaker looked at Eli's picture, standing tall in a holding cell, still unbroken. Riverbrook, he said. It's time. 3 days after Eli's release, Ava Washington stepped onto Riverbrook soil like a storm in a navy blue suit. She didn't smile, didn't pause. Just walked through the Pine Grove shelter lobby, all sharp heels and sharper focus. Eli sat in the corner, sipping black coffee from a styrofoam cup, watching her the way soldiers watch new arrivals, cautious, clinical. You're Eli Morgan, she said without preamble. And you must be Whitaker's secret weapon, Eli replied, motioning to the empty chair across from him. Ava sat. Her briefcase hit the table with a thud that sounded like war drums. I've seen your file. You should be dead. Or a general. I picked invisible, Eli said simply. Ava leaned in. Then let's make them regret overlooking you. From that moment, things moved fast. Ava reviewed the footage Rachel had recorded, then the security camera feed Rachel's friend had pulled from the diner. Together, they built a timeline, a pattern, a case. That night, Ava began digging into Knox and Dugan's records, and what she found made her blood run cold. 6 use-of-force complaints each, all dismissed, all following a nearly identical script. Uncooperative subject, suspected possession. Resisted instructions. Only now, the scripts cracked under the weight of new evidence. Worse, several complainants had mysteriously left town after filing. One man, Lloyd Jenkins, had vanished completely. The report listed his forwarding address as unknown. They're not just corrupt, Ava told Eli. They're coordinated. Eli nodded. Shield men. Ava paused. Say that again. Shield men, Eli repeated. It's a phrase I heard one of them use back in 21. They think they're guardians, cleansing the community. Rachel walked in just then, still shaken but determined. They don't cleanse, they erase. She handed Ava a folder. Inside were transcripts, timestamps, names. I've been listening, collecting, for months. Ava's eyes widened. You've been documenting this? Rachel nodded. I didn't have proof until Eli walked in. Then they gave it to me. That night, in a motel turned police command center, the 3 of them laid out the framework of a conspiracy. Properties purchased by shell companies connected to a defense contractor, Falcon Corps. Public records tied to rezoning efforts, and one thing kept reappearing. Police reports justifying removals based on public safety. They're clearing land, Eli said, staring at the map on the wall. Not people, land. To gentrify, Ava added. They get bonuses for how many they remove. They needed more. And it came from the most unexpected source. Rachel's younger brother, Jameson, still a cadet at the police academy, called her at 2:14 a.m. I need to talk to you, he whispered. Now. They met in a diner 2 towns over. Jameson wore plain clothes but looked like he hadn't slept in days. Captain Knox uses our training sessions too. Teach us how to lie. He pulled out a recorder, placed it on the table. They call it clean code. A script. How to frame charges. How to cover each other. Ava pressed record and asked, "How long has this been going on?" "Years," Jameson said. "They even used my sister's name as a warning. You don't want to end up like the Owens girl, picking sides and getting crushed." That was the tipping point. The next morning, Rachel was fired from Red Rail. Official reason? Attendance issues. Unofficial reason? A warning. She came home to a shattered window and a note taped to the wall. "Cop lovers don't last long." "They're trying to silence her," Ava said, helping board up the glass. "They're scared." "They should be," Eli replied. That night, Ava's motel was ransacked. Laptop gone. Notes shredded. The door broken off its hinges. This wasn't just suppression. It was war. And Eli Morgan had fought enough wars to know how to respond. "We go loud," he said, "but smart. I need a phone, not mine, an old one." He dialed a number from memory. "Hughes, Tech Haven." A voice answered. Eli smiled. "The eagle needs new wings." Silence. Then, "Damn, Morgan. Took you long enough." 6 hours later, a van with tinted windows and a crooked logo, choose Tech Haven, pulled into a different motel on the edge of town. The van looked like it fixed microwaves. What it actually carried was a mobile command post disguised in dust and sarcasm. Quincy Q. Morales rolled down the ramp in a carbon fiber wheelchair, flanked by 2 ex-military specialists and a woman with a jawline that could crack concrete. "Still picking fights in small towns, Eli?" Q grinned. Eli didn't smile back. "Still saving your ass from burning buildings?" They clasped forearms like old comrades. Behind them came the rest of the team. Trace Hamilton, former military police, now intelligence recon. Jordan Ghost Fields. Cyber forensics, government clearance revoked for being too curious. Ree Holloway, nicknamed Doc, combat medic turned trauma therapist. They didn't need introductions. They needed a mission. Inside, they took over the motel room like surgeons entering an OR. Laptops flared to life, surveillance feeds blinked on. Q tossed everyone encrypted burner phones. "From now on," he said, "we use these. No digital fingerprints, no dumb Google searches. This is Falcon Corps we're up against. They have reach." Rachel looked overwhelmed. Ghost handed her tea. "We've seen worse," he said kindly. "And we win when no one sees us coming." Trace had already started the data trace. "Your hunch was right," she told Ava. "Falcon Corps is buying up everything, blocks of properties. Always after arrests spike in those areas. Shield men are the tip," Ghost added. "What we're seeing is institutionalized cleansing, real estate warfare." Eli's face darkened. "They're not just targeting the poor. They're scrubbing veterans, witnesses, anyone who doesn't look good on a brochure." Then it got worse. Rachel stepped outside to grab lunch. On her way back, a black and white patrol car swerved in front of her. Kyle stepped out, smile razor sharp. "Ms. Owens," he said mockingly, "you're under arrest for interference in a police investigation and distribution of illegal surveillance." She barely had time to gasp. Knox shoved her into the cruiser. No Miranda rights, no camera, no paperwork. Q's surveillance flagged the incident within minutes. Ghost tracked the car's route via traffic cameras until it veered into an abandoned warehouse district and vanished. "They're not taking her to the station," Eli said flatly. "That would be too public. Too accountable." Doc's fists clenched. "Then where?" Eli's eyes narrowed. "To wherever they've made people disappear before." He turned to the team. "I need 4. Tactical, quiet. No weapons unless fired upon. We go in, we get her, we get out. No one hesitated. They split into units. Ghost and Trace monitored traffic feeds, thermal sensors. Doc packed triage. Q stayed on comms. Eli led the breach team, flanking the outbuilding where 2 heat signatures flickered behind crumbling concrete walls. Inside, Rachel sat tied to a chair, cheek bruised, but eyes clear. "You think anyone's gonna believe a waitress over us?" Kyle hissed. "We'll bury your name next to that vet." "You can try," Rachel spat back. "But I didn't stop recording." Hidden in her boot was a micro recorder, already backed up to the cloud via Q's uplink. A bang. The door crashed open. Knox turned, reached. Too late. Eli moved like thunder, disarming, disabling, disassembling Knox with one move. Rachel was untied in seconds. "You okay?" Eli asked. Rachel nodded, trembling. "I've got them. Everything. They confessed." By the time backup units arrived, called by a concerned citizen, Eli's team had already vanished into the night, leaving Kyle zip-tied and unconscious next to the evidence board he'd never wanted to face. Back at the motel, the room erupted with tension and purpose. Ava hit play on Rachel's audio. Kyle's voice rang out, cold and clear. "No one's gonna believe a junkie or some homeless war freak. We bury people like that." Silence. Then Q looked up from his screen. "We just buried them instead." By sunrise, the story had already gone global. Rachel's video, raw, unfiltered, and painfully clear, racked up over 1 million views in 6 hours. Her voice trembled as she narrated over the footage, but the message landed like a freight train. This is what happens when power is unchecked. This is what happens to people like Eli. And this is why we fight. Justice for Eli trended worldwide. Veterans groups issued statements. Civil rights organizations lit up the phones of Congress. The Department of Justice opened a formal investigation into Riverbrook's police department by noon. Eli stood in the back of the town hall, quiet as usual, as Ava stepped to the podium under bright lights and sharper gazes. Reporters packed every row. Community leaders, previously silent, now leaned forward with intent. Behind her, screens cycled through footage, photos, financial records, all tied to Falcon Corps and the Shield Men. "This is not just about one town," Ava said. "This is about an ecosystem of silence. A machinery of fear that trades human dignity for profit." She motioned to Rachel and Eli, but not everyone stayed silent. Rachel took the stage next, holding the microphone with both hands. She looked out at the faces she once served pancakes and coffee to, some supportive, some ashamed. She didn't falter. "I used to think keeping my head down was survival," she said, "that staying quiet was safer. But safety, for one, comes at the cost of justice for all." Her voice cracked once. She didn't hide it. "This man," she turned to Eli, "sat in a booth, asked for meatloaf, and was treated like trash. I watched it. I recorded it. And still, I didn't do enough. So now, I will never stop speaking again." Applause erupted, slow, then rising like a wave. Eli didn't move, but his eyes were brighter than usual. A hush fell as he approached the podium, dog tags gleaming in the lights. He paused for a full 10 seconds before speaking. "My name is Sergeant Elijah Morgan, U.S. Army, retired." Silence. "I served 3 tours, 2 Purple Hearts, a Silver Star. I lost good men in dirt that didn't even have a name. I carried them, buried them. And I came home hoping I could finally breathe." He looked directly at the crowd. "But here, in the country I fought for, I was told to leave a diner. I was told I didn't belong. A flicker of emotion tightened his jaw. I didn't fight in Kandahar to be feared at a lunch counter. I didn't watch friends bleed out so a town could raise property values. I didn't survive hell to be erased by a clipboard and a quota. He held up his dog tags. These are not decoration. These are proof of service, of sacrifice, of worth. Then he placed them gently on the podium. And I am not alone. Rachel stepped forward, took his hand. Ava stood beside them, then Q, Ghost, Trace, and Doc. Jameson followed, shedding the last remnants of fear. The hall was quiet again, but it wasn't silence. It was focus. Fire. Resolve. Later that night, Eli sat outside the community center, alone on a bench, watching snowfall collect on empty streets. Rachel joined him, a mug of tea in each hand. "You shook the country today," she said, passing him one. He sipped, then said, without looking at her, "You did." They sat there, shoulder to shoulder, in the cold, but no longer in the dark. Yup. Weeks passed. But the fire didn't fade. Falcon Corps' CEO was subpoenaed. Congressional hearings launched. Shieldmen chapters across 6 states collapsed under scrutiny. The ripple Eli started in a snow-covered diner had become a national reckoning. But Eli wanted no part in the headlines. He stayed in Riverbrook, quiet as always. A local veteran offered him a small room above a mechanic's shop. It wasn't fancy, but it was his. Each morning he swept the sidewalk out front. Each night he lit a single candle by the window, for the ones who never made it back. Rachel, meanwhile, didn't return to Red Rail. Instead, she opened a nonprofit cafe 3 blocks away, Second Shift. They hired only veterans and formerly incarcerated workers. The food wasn't perfect, but the mission was. Ava returned to D.C. and launched Turner's Law, a pro bono legal network protecting whistleblowers and homeless veterans from predatory policing. Within 6 months, they had open cases in 11 states. Q's team, still moving in the shadows, but this time with support. No longer rogue, no longer alone. Riverbrook became something no one expected. A blueprint. A model for justice reform, veteran support, and accountability. Cities across the country began to copy its transformation, not because it was easy, but because one man had refused to be erased. 6 months later, Eli received a letter, handwritten, no return address. It simply read, "You didn't just survive. You changed everything. You gave us our voice back." It was signed only Jenkins. He stared at it for a long time, then placed it inside a wooden box next to his dog tags, beside photos of his fallen squad. He didn't need recognition, just that someone, somewhere, had found their footing again. One evening, he returned to the diner. It had changed owners, changed staff, but the counter was the same. The seat was the same. He ordered the meatloaf. When the waitress brought it out, she smiled. "It's on the house, sir. Thank you for everything." He didn't argue. He simply nodded, cut into the food, and took a bite. Outside, children played in the snow. The streets were brighter. The town was quieter. Inside, a man who had once been discarded now sat in peace. Not because the world had changed, but because he had forced it to. So when people ask, what difference can one person make? Show them Riverbrook. Show them Elijah Morgan. And ask them this: if you saw someone being dragged out for simply existing, would you turn away, or would you make the call?